So it's a beautiful day today on the Caloosahatchee River. It is September 2nd. It's beautiful here, but in the Bahamas, they're getting pummeled right now by Hurricane Dorian, which is traveling at 1 mile per hour, very slow speed as the eye just crawls across the island. And we are fortunate that Florida, Southwest Florida, where we live, is, at this point, it looks like Hurricane Dorian is turning north or about to turn north and miss us. So we did a lot of preparations, and now we've got a little bit of a release of anxiety here, but Eastern Florida is still a very real situation. And while we're dealing with all of this, I wanted to bring to light some other things that we deal with as a part of hurricanes. When Hurricane Irma came through, we had a very large algae event.
5 years ago, when we were exposed to the cyanobacteria in Ohio, I got really sick. My dog had died, my dad had died, and I didn't know how to go on. It was really hard. So I thought, well, I'm going back to Florida. The water's really nice there. And I got here and it wasn't really nice.
Last year, I really got to witness firsthand on how that affected my patients. Little did I know that 3 months after, I would get affected as well, too. I don't know much of the scientific end, like you as well, but I'm here to support everybody in this room because I want my grandchildren to have clean water.
The first step, which is huge, is collecting the signatures.
I think we had 40,000 signatures. We got it done, it got on the charter, and it got passed because the county commissioners wouldn't do it. We chose to go charter there because the difference is the charter could only be changed by a vote of the people.
There's many people with the packets in their hand, ready to hit the streets. We need to identify those people that want to help and do this.
You guys sitting down saying, what do we want? What do we want the scope to be? What are the pieces of this that we want? It may not be just the river, it may be the river ecosystem, the river basin.
Why start on the county level and not on a city level?
I mean, this is really the meat of the matter, is any citizen in Lee County, if this passed in Lee County, would have standing in court. If it just passed in Cape Coral, only citizens of Cape Coral could bring a lawsuit.
That's what we're shooting for. That's going to be when we're going to try to get the amendment done, right?
The deal is the supervisor of elections at the county. So you're going to take the petition, you're going to finalize the empty petition.
Right.
You're going to give it to the supervisor of elections. And then they're going to sit on it for whatever.
Right.
But the moment that they approve that starts your 180 days.
Right.
Were we going to be able to go after Big Sugar and knock on their door and ask them to leave? Never. Could we ask Mosaic to stop polluting our waters? Right. Never. So I knew through working with the people in Toledo that the rights of nature was the only way that we were going to be able to protect our environment.
I mean, I didn't have anybody say that's stupid, that's not going to work. Everybody I talked to was positive and saying it needs to happen. So was that everybody?
The blue-green algae, the cyanobacteria on Lake Okeechobee. And that created a huge problem. The death of our sea life, the death of our river life, the Caloosahatchee River, the water all the way to Stuart, Florida from Okeechobee. Everywhere that Okeechobee exited, it was delivering cyanobacteria, which went into the ocean. And, there's a lot of confusing information out there because there's organizations that say that it's not affecting red tide and whatnot, but we all know that where the Caloosahatchee emptied into the ocean and where these fresh waterways that were tainted with cyanobacteria entered into the ocean, it seems that red tide increased dramatically. And so, making that connection is important because, basically it says that humankind is affecting our water quality, both in freshwater and in saltwater. And Florida has a population increase right now that's just exploding. And they say the population of Orlando every year an increase to the state. And the state is struggling to sustain that kind of growth without ruining our Everglades and our infrastructure of nature. And so we have to do our part. We have to do what we can to protect what we have and keep it beautiful. And sometimes that means hard decisions like, if you live in Miami and you want to grow and, you want to buy a house, well, The idea of a residential home unit is changing in a population center that that you don't want to grow into the Everglades. You don't want to continue to expand the land use to residential. So where do you go but up? Residential housing becomes an upward movement into high-rise structures in order to accommodate a larger population and still keep nature intact. But what we're dealing with here is the water quality, and what happens when your population center explodes is you're going to have more cars, more roads, more tar with the roads, more oil dripping on the roads and runoff. And in Irma's case, basically you have cattle and horses and farmland with fertilizer, and all of these things on the ground wash into the ocean or into the waterways, into the Lake Okeechobee, into the Caloosahatchee, and in the form of rain runoff, and it runs to the ocean. And I look at Florida like a big sand trap. It's supposed to be a big sand trap that filters all of that water. And if you filter all the water going to the ocean, then you're going to have pure water coming into the ocean, and we're not going to have all these problems. But what happens is we humans create bigger rivers and concrete rivers and all that kind of stuff, and canals and waterways that flush the water very quickly to the ocean. And when we do that, we relieve the land of its purpose of filtering that water. The Everglades is a giant filter. All the things growing in it filter. If the water goes through the sand, we all know sand is a great filter of water. But if the water runs whoosh to the ocean, there's no filter, and we're sending all the garbage that we create to the ocean. So how do we deal with this? What's the best course of action? One thing that's been a large struggle is, if say we find a smoking gun target, a sewage plant that is overloaded, over capacity, and begins to dump excess or not properly treated sewage into the waterway, and we want to do something about it, what can we do about it?